Welcome in to episode 2 of the Pro Football Network Bengals Podcast. My name is Dallas Robinson, and here with me today is Jay Morrison. Jay, how you doing?
Dallas, I'm great. This is the best possible day. There's no Bengals practice I have to go to, and it's a concert date. So in a terrific mood today. Glad to be here with you to talk some Bengals before I head down to see Breaking Benjamin and Disturbed tonight for concert 14 of 14 on my actually there is a possible 15th. I don't want to throw my wife under the bus, but we thought we were going to go to a concert in September, and she bought accidentally the VIP package that did not include a ticket, and now the tickets are sold out. So we don't know if we're going to get to that one, or if we're just going to eat the money for the VIP package, because you're not allowed to resell the VIP package. But yeah, big one tonight, and eager to talk Bengals before I go down and rock my face off.
Yeah, let's not throw Mrs. Morrison under the bus today, but yeah. I've been to one concert this year, and it was a Beatles cover band. So you can see maybe our musical interests are a little different. But
yeah, I've seen several cover bands. Did you pay to see the Beatles cover band?
I did.
Okay, then that counts. Yes. I've been to a lot of free ones that I haven't paid for, so I don't count those.
Well, since we talked last week, there's been a lot happened. We had a preseason game, obviously. Yeah. Joe Burrow did a workout before that game. We'll get to that, but we just wanted to go through and talk about who stood out in last week's preseason game, and maybe who didn't stand out in a positive way. Let's start out with one of those negative players along the offensive line, Jackson Carman. He seems to be everyone's favorite whipping boy on the Bengals offensive line. I thought he played okay when he came in at first, especially as a run blocker. But when he came back in the fourth quarter, it was bad. It was not good. He looked like he had mentally checked out of the game. What did you think of his performance? Where do you think he stands in the pecking order along the offensive line?
Yeah, well, I agree with you. It was not a good performance after he came back. It wasn't a great performance to begin with, but when he came back in the second time, he said in the locker room this week that it didn't catch him by surprise. They told them to be ready for anything. So it wasn't like he thought his night was over and they put him back in and he didn't know that was a possibility. Now, he may not have been happy about it, but I don't know. It's just, that's the thing with him, is it's the consistency. You know what I mean? And he will look good. You go back, you look at that Buffalo playoff game. It's like, oh, wow, he played pretty well. Maybe the light has come on. And I can't remember how many times we've said that, where, he's showing some maturity and he feels like things are coming around. And then there's always the backslide. And, he's now 0 for 3 in training camp battles. His first year, he was battling Xavier Su'a-Filo. He lost that. Actually got demoted to third string at one point. Then last year he comes back and all he has to do is beat out a rookie in Cordell Volson, and he can't do that. And then this year was Jonah Williams. That was an uphill climb, obviously. That one's been called. Jonah didn't play. Carman played in the fourth quarter. We know where that's at. And then to your question, I don't know if he's in danger of not making the 53, but he's clearly sliding down the depth chart. It looks like Deontay Smith has overtaken him to be that swing tackle. And Deontay played a lot. They got a long look at him Friday night. He played left tackle and right tackle, and we've seen that in practice as well. And Jackson Carman's been repping more at that left tackle this week in practice since the game. So I'm not ready to scratch him off of my 53 man yet, but he's sliding closer to that side of it than he is seeing action as a starter, obviously.
Yeah, I think he's a very frustrating player to watch, because like you mentioned, that Buffalo game, he played so well that there was a little bit of me that thought, could he be the Bengals' future left tackle and move Jonah to right tackle? Obviously, that's not going to happen after they signed Orlando Brown, but he was really impressive in that game. And I guess it's a question of, what do you weigh? Do you weigh the in-game performances? Do you weigh that down-to-down consistency throughout practices and the preseason? I think at this point, it's hard to trust him, as obviously he's not going to be a starter. It's hard to trust him as the swing tackle too. Like you mentioned, Dante Smith, I think, is going to take that role. I think Hakeem Adeniji is probably going to make this roster. It starts to come down to how many offensive linemen are the Bengals comfortable keeping. Jackson Carman, and with his draft capital and the upside he's shown, you're probably right. He's probably not going to get cut, but from where he was after that Buffalo game and the opinion that I personally held of him to where he is now, he has really, really fallen. If we want to look at the interior offensive line, I think Max Sharping and Trey Hill, do you think they're locked in as the top two interior guys? I know Zach Taylor had some praise for Cody Ford too.
Yeah, that came out of the blue. I
It
mean,
really, it really did. It really
and he
did.
has not looked good in practice. I know maybe they liked what they saw in the game, but
Yeah,
it was weird the way he just I don't know. I don't know. There's probably some reason for that. I don't know if he has something in mind down the line, but I wonder. You mentioned identity. I don't have him making the team right now, and I don't have Cody Ford either. I have him on the
mm,
bubble. But yeah, I do. I'm Sharping and Hill are, I would say, locks. They've been both working at center and guard, and that's kind of the reason on my last 53 I went from 10 O linemen down to 9, because
yeah,
they're getting these guys that can play multiple positions. Even Carman can play guard, he can play tackle, and now
right,
if you got Sharping and Hill that can play center or guard, then you're really covered everywhere. I talked to Max in the locker room yesterday because I was curious about his history playing center, and he said Friday night was the first time he's ever snapped the
right.
ball in a
Yeah,
game. But he played well,
he
and
played well.
he
Yeah,
can do it. He's played tackle in this league. He's mainly been a guard, but it's and the more that you can do, and the more versatility you have, I think if something were to happen to Ted Karras, it would probably be Ted Trey Hill at this
real.
point, um, just because it is so new to Max Sharping. But Max has more reps in this league, so maybe it could go the other way if they've liked what they've seen. We saw it for the first time, and it was a first time for Max in a game. But
Hmm.
since camp started, they've been repping he's been
Yeah.
working in at center. So this is a plan. This is not just an experiment. So yeah, I think I put those two down as locks at this point.
And you've also got Lael Collins, who's really been ramping up his
Yeah.
rehab too. And, you know, is he going to be ready for the regular season?
No.
I doubt it. I don't think that's going to happen, but he's obviously going to be on the pup list and could come back at some point this year. He's played guard in the past. He's obviously can play tackle. It's a lot of versatility and I think a lot of depth that the Bengals have not had in recent years that they have now, which I think is a positive, even if there are individuals like Jackson Carman who aren't stepping up. In the aggregate, I think they have more depth than they have in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's a very expensive insurance policy if you're going to keep Lael Collins around at what 9 million and he's due this year. And I don't know. I need to. I'm not sure of this because I know they've changed the pup rules where it used to be if you're on pup you have to miss at least the first 6 weeks. They've changed it to 4.
It's 4, yep.
Yes, but I don't know what that top end is because it used to be
Mm,
once you got to week 13, then you had to return to practice within a certain amount of time, or then you would go on IR for the year. So I don't
yes.
know if they shrunk since they went from 6 to 4, if they went from 13 to 11 on the back end, or if it's still week 13. But you can, if you're going to pay him, you can still keep him stashed there until you possibly do need him if there's an injury. And he's talked about being very, and Frank Pollock, the offensive line coach, has talked about it too, about how good he's been with the young guys and teaching them. He knows Frank from his days in Dallas. He knows what he wants. So he's working with them on technique and expectations and all of that. So he has value, but until we see what the Burrow deal looks like and if there is a T. Higgins deal,
Yeah,
can they afford to keep Lael Collins?
sure. One guy they can definitely afford to keep, apologies, is rookie Tyson Anderson at safety. Obviously, one of the stars of the preseason game, 2 interceptions, including a pick six.
Mhm.
Um, where does he stand on the depth chart? I really liked him coming out of Toledo. He's obviously not in the mix for a starting role, but that athleticism and speed and burst instincts that he has at safety, what does that mean for someone like Michael Thomas? What does that mean for that safety room as a whole?
Yeah, I've got him keeping 5 safeties. I have him keeping both Mike Thomas and Tyson Anderson, which is rare. They almost always only go with 4. But they went with 5 last year because you count Jesse Bates was on that weird list and he wasn't really
Right.
counting against the 53. Um, but yeah, it's a great question because Mike Thomas has value. And it's not at safety. It's in the locker room and it's on special teams. He had the 3rd most special teams of any guy on the team last year. And the
Mhm.
guy that was sitting at number 1, Clay Johnson, is no longer with the team. So there's a lot of value in what Mike Thomas brings on those special teams. And it's just, there was, he got emotional in the locker room, and it was about, seeing Tyson Anderson. He said he felt like a proud big brother, but there also had to be some reality setting in that, this guy's coming for my
He's here to
job.
take
And
my job. Yeah.
exactly. And, Mike's, he's on the NFLPA executive council, and he's got his post football life planned out, but he's not ready to give it up yet. And,
Mm.
um, I think he would stick around if they cut him. I think he would stay on the practice squad. He could still be elevated on game days and be a part of special teams. But I think the writing's on the wall that Tyson Anderson's going to make this team. They like you, the Bengals really liked him coming out of Toledo, and he played in all 3 preseason games last year. People forget that because he was on IR all year with that. Well, not all year, but for most of the year with that hamstring injury. That I think they were just kind of stashing him with that. But he looks every bit of what they thought they were getting. And it's interesting. As you guys know, I like to dig into stats. This one took some work.
Jay's got stats.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times you can just, what you're looking for. You go to the site, you plug it in. Well, not a vast resource for preseason stats. So
No.
I had to go to every single. The Bengals started putting preseason stats in their media guide in 1995. So I had to go through all the old media guides to find this. And he's only the 8th player since 95, 8th Bengals player to have multiple interceptions in an entire preseason. We're not talking one game. We're talking in an entire preseason. The record is 3 by Morgan Trent in 2010. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure even if the starters do get some run this week, we're going to see a lot more of Tyson Anderson as a guy that lost his entire rookie year these next 2 games. So he's going to have some opportunities to pick off a few more passes.
Morgan Trent. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. That's an interesting name.
There's some other interesting names on that list.
Yeah. No, I think obviously the biggest question on the Bengals defense is the safety room after losing Bates and Von Bell. And you just have to feel really good about what happened in the preseason game. Dax Hill made some nice plays. Anderson, obviously. I think Jordan Battle made some nice plays.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to have the experience that Jesse Bates and Von Bell had, but man, you got to feel good about these young guys and kind of the development and the promise of what it's going to look like this year and in future years. And the back end, I think you really have to feel good about that. One more positive guy I wanted to talk about was Dominique Davis. You wrote about him recently. Really good game, had 4 pressures, had a fumble recovery against the Packers. I still don't know if there is a spot for him on this roster. It's going to come down to how many defensive linemen the Bengals want to keep. I think they probably have at least 8 or 9 locks already along the defensive line. Are they going to keep a 10th guy? Is it going to be Davis? Is it going to be someone like J2 Faley or Jeff Gunter? Where do you stand on that? I think Dominique Davis is a great story, but is he going to make on the 53 or is he more like a practice squad addition?
Yeah, I at this point, it's either going to take an injury or a trade to kind of create a spot for him. But I don't rule out a trade. I mean, you mentioned that is, if they're going to make a trade, that's where it's going to be, is on the D line, because they've got they are so deep there, and it's quality depth. I mean, all those guys can play, and you wait for cut down day and or right before cut down day, and it's like, okay, what team out there has too many tight ends and they're going to cut one? Maybe they're going to want to get something rather than just cutting the guy. It's kind of what we saw a couple years ago with Billy Price and the BJ Hill deal. So I think that would be Davis's path. He comes from a Division II school. His only real tape is in the USFL and then what he did Friday night. So I don't know that if the Bengals cut him, there would be teams lining up to sign him away. So be safe to get him back on the practice squad. But if they start seeing that they really do like what they have in him, they're loaded, not just on the D line, but at that nose guard position, because Reeder's one of the best in the league. And then you got Tupou, has been really solid since he's been here. And Jay Tufele, who they signed off of waivers last year after cutdown day, has played well in big games when he's had a chance. And so, you're not keeping 4 nose tackles. You may not keep 3. So that's that. I mean, Dominique Davis could be just that extra little push for them to make a move here, either right before the deadline, or we'll see what they do after the deadline.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to see if they do make some sort of trade. The Billy Price for BJ Hill, I think, is the pinnacle of all summer trades, and
Mm.
you hope that every deal you make turns out like that. Obviously, it's not going to, but you go back in the past, 2009, they traded defensive tackle Orion Harris for Brian Leonard. I think that was another obvious win for the Bengals.
Yeah.
They traded David Jones for Reggie Nelson in 2010. They
That
have
was
made
the
moves.
best, by the
That
way,
was the
before the
best.
Billy Price, the
Yes.
BJ Hill one. That was a heck of a
Yes.
steal.
It was an incredible deal. The Bengals have a history of doing this. I wouldn't be surprised if they do move one of these guys for something. I don't know if it's
Mm.
going to be much. I don't know if they're going to find another BJ Hill, but I could see them making another transaction like
Uh,
that, given that depth.
Another one that people forget, Chad Johnson, they traded for 2 draft picks to the
Yeah,
Patriots, and one of those draft picks ended up being Marvin Jones. So they
exactly.
have done pretty well in this realm, in this August, September trade period. They don't do so well at the trade deadline midseason.
No,
Or take part at all is usually the
no.
case. But yeah, the late season, the late preseason is really, they have really made some solid moves.
Yeah, definitely. Um, at running back, I think there's a couple things going on. Number one, they're still trying to find who's going to be the running back two and who's going to be that passing down back. And then off the field, we have the Joe Mixon trial
Mhm.
continuing today. Now, Joe Mixon is facing a misdemeanor for aggravated menacing. It's just a misdemeanor. I think, regardless of what happens in this trial, could he be suspended? Maybe for a misdemeanor. Maybe. Is it going to happen this season? I don't think so. That's typically not how the NFL works. They typically don't move that quickly. So personally, I don't think he's in danger of being suspended in 2023. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And then at RB2, I think there's a lot going on. I thought Chris Evans and Chase Brown both had their moments against the Packers. Um, I could see the Bengals just being comfortable with something of a committee as an
Mhm.
RB2. And you've also got Trevion Williams out there who still is dealing with an injury, who might be coming back soon. It's a little murky on when he'll be back. Um, I think this is still up in the air. There's a lot of moving pieces here. What's your take on the running back situation? Where do things stand with Mixon, and what are they looking for in RB2?
Well, I think Mixon absolutely could be suspended if he's found guilty. I
You
mean,
think
it's just
this season?
this season, yeah,
Okay.
because it's as we're recording this Tuesday morning, and he is in court right now, day 2 of his trial, expected to wrap up today. So
Mm,
you still have almost a full month before the first regular season game. What, we're at 25 days. So it just, the even it is, though it's a misdemeanor, the look of waving a gun,
yes.
that's, I do think there could be a suspension there if he's found not guilty. I don't think there's no, because we've seen other guys either not been charged, or yeah, the league is suspended before the legal process is played out
Yeah.
in much more egregious cases. But it's a he said she said right now. I don't Nothing
Totally.
from the trial yesterday, I think, I don't think, proved that he actually had a gun. And
No.
unless the prosecution can prove that, and I don't know that they can, then I don't know, number one, how he's going to be convicted, and then number two, if he is found not guilty, I don't think the league does anything. But if there's some surprise evidence today that they do have proof, yeah, I think he could be facing a suspension.
Interesting.
As far as how it plays out, Chris Evans has grown. I didn't give him a chance to make this team at first because he has been a liability in pass protection, and he has not run plays the way they were designed. And I got to give props where props are due. Charlie Goldsmith from Cincinnati Enquirer went up to Chris Evans on Sunday and talked to him about how he tried to get better at pass protection in the offseason, when you can't find guys to blitz, and you can't,
Right. Yeah.
it's not a situation like quarterbacks and receivers working on routes.
Yeah.
And he said he had to get comfortable with things his body doesn't want to do. And
Mm.
he went with all the rookies to Fort Knox. The Bengals had an event down there, and he wore a bite suit. He was the only player willing to put on the bite suit and be chased and bitten by a dog. He The drop zone towers at amusement parks, he
Mhm.
rode those just to kind of get over stuff that, like he said, your body doesn't want to do. And he I wrote about it last night. There was a play early in practice, and he saw Dax Hill creep up and he knew he was coming and he was doing this even before the snap. Like, come on.
Come get
And
me.
they were teammates at Michigan, so they know each
Yeah.
other. And that's what he was talking about. He's like, yeah, Dax gets shifty with his eyes because he doesn't want to give it away by staring in the backfield. And so, he's picked that up. He is a smart guy. And I do think, and by the way, it wasn't just a recognition. He stood
Yeah.
up and really squared up Dax on
Yeah.
that play. And it was a good block. So I do think he's in the mix there. Travion showed a little bit. He has looked good. He's been back on the rehab field, but I don't know if he'll be ready. He might be a guy they stash on IR for 3
Sure.
weeks, just if they need a spot elsewhere. And Chase Brown, I don't know yet. Well, it's been one game. You can't judge that much in practice. He did look explosive in some of those plays Friday night. But you didn't get a real test there's just not a lot of blitzing in the preseason. So it's hard
Sure.
to,
Everyone's playing vanilla defense.
yeah, exactly. And so it's hard to get a feel for that. But, if I was betting right now, I think Chris Evans is more dynamic in the pass game. He has great hands and a good route runner. And if he can continue making this progress as a pass protector, then I can see him winning that job.
Yeah. I cannot get that catch he made. I think it was 2021 against the Lions where he was lined up as a wide receiver and just beat that linebacker in man coverage and made an amazing catch down the left sideline. It sticks in my mind. And I really think the Bengals could find a way to use that type of receiving talent, depending on how he does in pass protection. So I think it'll be really interesting what they do. I'm still curious if they would even consider a veteran free agent running back. Dalvin Cook came off the board this week. Ezekiel Elliott came off the board this week. I thought Zeke could have been an interesting contender for the Bengals just because of his pass protection. I mean, he's still one of the best pass protecting running backs in the NFL. Leonard Fournette is still out there. Kareem Hunt is still out there. Both guys are obviously really good in the receiving game. I do wonder, the Elliott and Cook both got, I think it's around $5 or $6 million each. I don't think the Bengals are going to go anywhere near that for a backup running back. If Fournette and Hunt's price is below that and the regular season starts to creep up, do you think they'd consider adding an external guy, or are they just set on, hey, we're going to go with Brown, we're going to go with Evans and may the best man win?
Yeah, I think more than likely they will go with what they have. I thought Fournette was a great option. He spent 3 years with Tom Brady. You're not a third down back for Tom Brady without that guy having trust in you. But I was surprised when I went and I looked to see where he ranked in terms of pass blocking grade by PFF. And I know PFF, it's not the end all, but it is a good guideline and they do watch every play. And among qualifying backs, I was really surprised to see in 2022, Leonard Fournette ranked 52 out of 61 qualifying backs in pass blocking. 21 was better. He was 35 of 65. 2020, 76 of 80, 2019, 55 of 63, 2018, 63 of 69, 2017, 48 of 68. So only once in his career has he been in the top half of the league, and that was barely at 35 out of 65. So it's not great. But that's the thing. He is a weapon. I mean, he has caught a lot of passes the last 3-4 years out of the backfield, but that's not this job. What they're looking for is a reliable pass protector. And so I don't know that Fournette would be the right fit there. And again, you don't know what he's asking for. Kareem Hunt's much better. I was surprised. You look at his size, and he's been really good. He was 30 of 61 in pass blocking last year, 14 of 65 in 2021, 31 of 80 in 20. So it's interesting that he is that good. He's dynamic as a receiver, and he is a good pass protector. But he comes with the kind of baggage that I don't know they want to insert into this team. It's all about culture and chemistry. And I don't know if you want to bring a guy like that in. I think they're going to ride with what they have.
And and Hunt has taken a lot of visits recently with the Saints, the Colts, the Vikings. I think, especially in the Colts case, teams that obviously have a bigger need than the Bengals do and are probably willing to offer him more money than the Bengals are. So I think Hunt is probably unlikely. I'm curious what they do. I think you're probably right that they'll stick with what they have on the roster. I kind of have the same question at quarterback because I didn't think Trevor Siemian or Jake Browning played all that well against the Packers. I thought Browning was slightly better, but he also had the benefit of playing with better players when he was in the game in the first half. I think he has a lot of arm strength questions. Trevor Siemian, I thought, was not good. I thought he made a lot of questionable decisions. I thought he was inaccurate, and his ball placement was not great. If I were the Bengals, I'd be worried about what would happen. I think Joe Burrow will be back for week one. I
Yeah.
don't have any doubts about that. But man, if he goes down during the season or suffers a setback, God forbid, I don't feel confident about what the Bengals have behind him. I wonder if they would consider signing someone else. Carson Wentz is still out there. Like what you talked about, I don't know that the Bengals would want to add that type of personality to the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
He's not necessarily a bad guy, but I think he has had some issues where he's been in terms of leadership, in terms of his teammates really kind of getting behind him as a starting quarterback. And if he's coming in here as a clear number two, how would that work out? And then there's Brandon Allen, who obviously backed up Joe Burrow for the past couple seasons. I don't think he's going to make the roster with the 49ers. I think they'll probably roll with Purdy and Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. If and when he gets cut, do the Bengals consider a reunion with him? I don't know. They didn't make a huge effort to re-sign him this offseason. I don't know where things stand behind Joe Burrow, but I don't feel great about it.
Well, I mean, the Brandon Allen, I would say he's not here for a reason. You're right. It would not have cost them much to re-sign him, and he has that prior relationship with Zach Taylor. It seemed like the perfect fit. So I don't know what caused them to say, hey, we want to go in a different direction. I know they love Jake Browning, but you still could have kept Brandon Allen at a cheap price too. And instead they basically were flying out there with two. I mean, it was May 3rd before they got Trevor Siemian. So you're right. Siemian didn't look good. He's had moments in practice. I think he's looked better than Browning in practice. And Zach Taylor did say that we're going to see that flip, that Trevor's going to play the first two quarters on Friday night in Atlanta. So we'll see how he does. I still think, you're talking about a guy that's got 30 starts in the league. If Joe Burrow were to miss a game, it's not going to be good. It's going to be a huge drop off no matter who that backup is. Right. And if it's extended time he's going to miss, then you're talking about 2024 at that point, because I don't give them, they still have a terrific roster, but I don't know that if Burrow misses a handful of games, that they could overcome that. So, I am. That's going to be one of the things I'll be watching closest Friday night, is to see how Trevor Siemian looks, and does he look much better than he did Friday night, with getting the chance to play with the second team offensive line, maybe the first offensive line. I mean, we could see Zach Taylor play some starters Friday night.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do, and what is the benefit of doing that, right? Is it worth risking any injuries to any of the starting players, or should they be getting reps? And I think there's some value to playing starters for a few drives at least, especially to see what you have in Siemian and see how he does with an elevated cast of characters around. Do you think they will play a few starters, or what's your sense? What do you think they'll do?
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to. If it was me, I wouldn't. I don't. Even if they play two series, you're talking 8 to 10. Maybe they put a long drive together. Who knows? But it's not that many snaps, and I think what this comes down to is the players want to do it. A lot of them have said, yes, I would like to get in there and shake some rust off and play. And Zach Taylor listens to his players. He's not a my way or the highway kind of coach, and so. Even T. Higgins yesterday said he would like to play in the preseason, and he's a guy that's like pulled himself back and has not been doing very many team drills in practice because, he's still got a lot of money at stake. He's got the contract situation. He's trying to get that extension. So I don't know. And
had a scary situation this week, obviously.
Yes, that was, I wrote about that yesterday. Yeah, that was not good. And I don't know, maybe that was lip service where he said, I'm a player. I want to play in the preseason. It's easy to say. It's something else to actually suit up and go out and do it. But I do think that we'll see, because if he's going to play him, it's going to be this week. I can't imagine he would play them in the third preseason game. Right. So, Zach, he didn't shoot it down, and he said that they're still trying to hammer out the plan, and he's going to tell the players first before he tells us in the media. So maybe he announces something tomorrow, which will be the next time they practice. But if gut feeling, I think we're going to see some starters Friday night.
Yeah, it's very curious, watching the games over the weekend that some teams played all their starters, some teams played absolutely nobody, and
Hmm.
it's very curious, especially moving to 3 preseason games. How do you allot the reps to the players that you want to see? Who do you get in there? And yeah, I think I'm very curious to see how that quarterback battle plays against how it plays out against the Falcons, and if Simeon can look a little better because besides Brandon Allen, I don't think there's anybody else they would consider bringing in. And I still do think Simeon, given his experience, given when they signed him in the offseason, that he's probably the favorite for that QB2 job. And I'm curious to see if he can do a little better in game action. Because, like you said, I think he's been, at least from reports and what you've seen, he's been good in practice. He's made
Yeah.
some throws in practice, and he's made a lot of starts in the NFL. The upside probably isn't there, but the upside probably isn't there for a lot of backup quarterbacks. It's he needs to be able to come in for a game or two in the event of an injury, and I think he could probably do that. But I'd like to see a little more proof of it against the Falcons in this next preseason game.
And quarterbacks obviously are not plug and play either. There's a
Yeah,
lot that goes into learning the offense
sure.
and the scheme and the terminology and all that. And so the Brandon Allen would be a fit in that regard. But again,
Yes.
I think there's a reason he's not here, and so it would be a tough ask to try to go get somebody else and get them up to speed. Yeah, you could still ride with Jake Browning until that person did that, but
Yeah.
once you get in the regular season, that third string quarterback is his only reps are going to be on the scout team against the first team defense. So there's not going to
Yeah.
be it's going to be a crash course big time. So I think it's they're gonna go and let this play out and see who it is between Jake and Trevor. And if I was betting, I would say it's going to end up being Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, we're less than a month away from the regular season, so any
Mhm.
additions they make at this point, it's going to have to be a crash course, and any additions they make would probably be in a position where it is more plug and play. If they did happen to add a running
Yeah.
back, or if they added, someone else that not like quarterback, where it's you're going to have to do a full study course before you can actually get in the offense. It's going to be a position where you can just get in and play immediately. So we'll see. We'll see what the Bengals do if they make any more transactions, and we'll look forward to that game against the Falcons this weekend. That's going to do it for episode 2 of the Pro Football Network Bengals podcast. Jay, enjoy that concert today.
Oh, you know it.
I'm sure that'll be great. We'll get a review next week. We'll be back next week. We'll talk about the preseason game against the Falcons and who stands out and who didn't, and
Mhm.
where the roster stands from there. So we will be back next week. Please rate and review if you're listening on a podcast platform. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We will see you next week in the Pro Football Network Bengals podcast.